So data is nothing but it's a fact of information.
It's in Microsoft, but I haven't got chance to work in SQL. I'm actually an SC, Windows admin. So
okay, you're interested to learn database, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I have no idea actually. So yeah, I just want to start.
Okay, great. Okay, fine. It's time to start now. Yogendra. Okay. Fine. Gender and which college and what is his qualification. This is a fact of information. Data. Data is nothing but it's a fact of information related to any object. That object can be some person or, for example, order also, orders, employee. These are related to any object. For example, if you want to store the data, if I'm interested in storing some piece of information, some fact of information about a person, okay, so we'll be interested in knowing his person, name of the person, his mobile number, and so on. That is nothing but a data. Okay, fine. So, for example, if you want to store of our data of our friends list, okay. So, for example, if you want to store a data of our friends, okay, fine. So we'll be interested in storing his name, his gender, for example, and his mobile number, his or mobile number. So that is nothing but the data, the collection of data. For example, Madhu, for example, gender, and for gender is male. For example, 123 is mobile number. Okay. For example, Peter male, 456. For example, anything. John, for example. John male, 444. This is nothing but the data of a particular person. So that is about the data. Data, a fact of information related to any object. So here the object is a person. The object can be anything, orders, employee, and so on, like locations and different departments like. Okay. So this collection of data is called a database. So database is nothing but it's a collection of data related to a particular person. Okay, fine. So this database, the fact of information, the data which are interested in storing, can be a simple database or it can be a complex database. Simple database or it can be a complex database. So what is simple database and what is complex database? Simple database is nothing but where there's very less information. Less information to store. For example, if we want to store our friends' data, for example, I have only 100 friends. Okay, so that is very simple data. It's having less information, but in real time, the data is very huge. So every business today is dependent on the database to analyze the business or to improve the business and analyzing the competitor business. In order to compete in today's market, every business are interested in the database. For example, if you go to a shop, for example, footwear shop, okay, once we purchased some footwear, they will ask mobile number because they want to maintain the information. Because in future, if they want to promote any sales, so they require this data. Okay, by looking at this database, they will send SMS to promote the business so that it will attract more customers. Okay. Fine. But simple databases can be maintained manually. In piece of paper also it can be maintained, right? It can be maintained in manually. But whereas complex databases, where there's a lot of information, large amount of data, okay, it is very hard to maintain manually. So it requires some need to be computerized. Complex databases need to computerized. So in order to computerize, okay, fine. So previously all the data were stored in a simple notepad or in an Excel. Okay, fine. So what is we'll be learning like why RDBMS came into picture and what are the disadvantages of storing the information in the file. Okay, so in some way, the complex database, in order to store the large information of data, it cannot be maintained in a piece of paper or it cannot be maintained manually. So it requires need to be computerized. So we thought that okay, if all the information to be stored in a notepad or in a simple notepad or a Excel sheet. Okay, fine. So for example, we stored our information in a simple Excel like this. So this is also nothing but it is a database. This is a database. Okay, the collection of data is nothing but a database, but that is very important. Okay, then what is a database means? It's nothing but it's a collection of data. It's called a database. Okay, any questions? Anybody, any questions?
No.
Okay, fine. So, so what are the disadvantages? Okay, we want to store our friends' data, name, gender, and mobile number. Okay, fine. Oh, okay. His name is the first record. This is record. Okay. So Madhu male, and for example mobile number 123. So Peter male 456. If we observe that this has several disadvantages because mobile number cannot be a 3-digit. Okay. For example, if there's a person, okay, some person, it can accept this simple software can accept any type of data. Okay, fine. So for example, ABC is also accepted, but which is purely like invalid data. Okay, so if we store our data in Excel, it will not validate our data. Okay, so it can have like for example, gender can if you store A also it happily accepts. But the gender can be only male and female or transgender, right? So but this is invalid data. So as the database plays a crucial role in market today, because every database, okay, by looking at the database, so they will analyze the database to to promote the business or whatever to improve the sales, right? So if our database is inaccurate, it's not complete, okay, so then that database will not be useful. So every business require database which should be useful. Database should be to be useful. The database should be first accurate, complete, up to date. Up to date. And this of like it should be well organized. If this is useful only, it helps a business to analyze. If the data is not accurate, it is very hard for the business to improve the business and to analyze what is the status of existing business and so on. Because now the database is so crucial that every business is treating the database as like a diamond, more precious. Database is more precious. So they want their data to be accurate. Okay, fine. So, but the storing the information in simple notepad or Excel, it will not validate. Here, if you can see, the data is invalid. It cannot be used. For example, we have some another number. Okay, fine. For example, Sita B, and there's no mobile number. Okay, it is not complete. Here, it is inaccurate. So, if you want the data, for example, to promote a business, if you want to, for example, send SMSs. To all the employees or to all the members in the database. Okay, as the database is not accurate, it cannot help the business to improve the business because it is invalid data. Okay, for example, out of 7 records, the only SMS that will be sent to a valid number only. Okay, so 90% of the data is invalid. So how can that particular business can improve the business, right? So every database should be follow these 4 points. To be useful, the database should be accurate, complete, and up to date, and it has to be well organized. Okay, fine. So what are the disadvantages of storing the data? Because complex databases need to be computerized, we thought of storing the information in Notepad and Excel. Okay, but there are a lot of disadvantages. Okay, fine, because it can store invalid data is not consistent, invalid data. invalid data. Okay, there's no validation because so it should prevent us from entering the gender, for example, B. Okay, so but this simple software cannot validate the data. That is the disadvantage of that. No validation. Okay, invalid data. It's not accurate, and it's like inconsistent. Inconsistent data. There's no consistent data. If you store the the information or the data in a files. Okay, so that is called file processing system. Previously, all the data were used to store in the files. That is called file processing system. So in file processing system, all the information, all the data or information, I use the term data and information like interchangeable. Okay, I treat the data and information is same. All the data or information is stored in files. That is called file processing system. Okay, fine. So what is DBMS? We'll be learning very shortly. Okay, but before learning what is DBMS, we'll look at like what are the disadvantages of storing the data in files, file processing system. Disadvantage. What are the disadvantages? Means, okay, no validation. Validation cannot be done if we store the data in files. Inconsistent data can be stored. Data is not accurate, not complete and accurate. For example, another thing is data independence. Okay, so to overcome all this limitation, there's a special software exists evolved called DBMS software. DBMS. Okay, it has like what are the disadvantages of in file processing system are the advantages in DBMS software. Okay, fine. So we'll understand like what is DBMS. Okay, we understand like no validation, right? So before entering the data, it is not validating whether it is correct or not. Okay, that is about validation. Okay, so in order to be useful, our data should be accurate. Okay, it should prevent the particular software should prevent from entering the invalid entries. Okay, it should check, but but Notepad and Excel softwares will not check, so that it will not perform validation. Okay, if the database is not consistent. Okay, for example, if the mobile number, if you're storing in two files, for example, if you're storing the information in two files, for example, Madhu is stored in this sheet and Madhu is also stored in other structure of a database. For example, if the data is updated, if the mobile number is changed, okay, because the mobile number of a person can be changed, right? So if the mobile number is updated in this file and it is not updated in suppose if there is a mobile number in this sheet, okay, if this is not updated, so that becomes inconsistent. Here it is showing if my business says that, okay, fine, what is the mobile number of Madhu? Okay, so it will have like two entries. Okay, whether they should be treated as correct or this should be treated as correct. So that is nothing but inconsistency. Okay, fine. So with the help of that is a disadvantage of file processing system. Okay, fine. So it is not complete. For example, the main purpose of storing the data, okay, of our friends, of the mobile number of our friends. The main objective of this database is storing the mobile numbers of our friends, for example. Okay, fine. For example, if you observe this, it is not complete. Okay, it should prevent us. Okay, fine. So here there should be no empty. Okay, but this file processing system cannot help us in completing that part. It should prevent us. Okay, please enter mobile number as this should be mandatory, as this is mandatory, but it will not check. Okay, fine. That is called not complete and accurate. Accurate means, okay, your mobile number should be like there will be no 2-digit number, or there will be not any characters, right? Okay, that is not accurate. Okay, fine. But in order to be helpful, the database, because the database is so treated as so precious, it should be like follow all the 4 rules which I mentioned in this. It should be accurate, complete, up to date, and organized. Okay, fine. So what is data independence? Sorry. Okay, data dependence. Sorry. Okay, for example, what is data dependence means? For example, if you're storing the information in a notepad, for example, if all the information is stored like this: name, comma, gender, comma, mobile number. So our business came to the conclusion that, okay, fine. So every field and data value is separated with a delimiter called comma. Okay, fine. So the data, every data is stored like this: Madhu, for example, male, and mobile number 123. For example, Sita, for example, female, and 456, for example. Okay, so if the application program, the program which is interacting with this data, okay, once we typed the mobile number, for example, once click on submit button, we want to get the details, for example. Okay, fine. So the application program, the front end application is written in such a way that, okay, fine. So it will look, for example, because as a structure, as a format of the database is stored like a comma separator. Okay, so it will go to the first line. Okay, and it will check that. Okay, fine. After once it finds a comma, it will treat as this is header. Okay, fine. This is name. Okay, it will read it will read the text after the comma. Okay, once it finds a comma, okay, it reads that. Okay, fine. So this is a second column information. Next, once it finds a comma after the comma, subsequent text after the comma will be treated as the next column. So once it finds a new character, new line entry. Okay, fine. So it treats as all the values, all the data as all the subsequent lines as a data. Okay, fine. So once it finds, okay, it treats that. Okay, fine. So the name as it is a first value. Okay, before comma, it treats as a value for name, and this is, okay, value for the corresponding column. This is a value for a corresponding column called mobile number. Once it finds a new line entry, it thinks that, okay, fine. So this is this is another record. Okay, fine. But the program is written in such a way that, okay, fine. So comma is a separator. But if somebody changed, okay, in future, for example, after 6 months or 7 months, okay, the format is changed. The format of data, like now says that the business came into conclusion that, okay, we'll maintain the format while like this. Instead of comma separator, we'll follow this this separator colon. So if the data in the text file changes, the entire program also need to be changed, right? Okay, so that is dependence. The application program is dependent on the data out is stored. So it is very cost effective. If you want to change the application program, it is very costly. Okay, again we need to change all the programs, okay, which have comma separator, and it has to be compiled, and it has to be deployed in so it has to be tested in dev, and it has to be deployed in production. Once it is deployed in production, whether it works fine or not, that is like cost effective to the company. It is very costly. If the data is changed, if the format of the data is changed, so it is very cost effective to the company. Fine. So for example, now this is first scenario to understand. Okay, fine. So for example, okay, fine. So business has like invested money in changing their programs. Okay, fine, right? So next scenario, that the problem with this is, okay, fine. For example, if the data as a data, if there's any typing error, for example, instead of colon, okay, people mistyped like semicolon. Okay, fine. So the data, for example, if we submit 1 2 3 and press go button, okay, if you search for 1 2 3 and press this go button, it will give the name as Madhu :M. Okay, because it is not end of the name. Okay, so if there's a mistakes, if there's any typing error, so that will be that leads to be incorrect data. Okay, right, invalid data. Okay, for example, if he misses anything, for example, instead of colon, he presses comma. Okay, here there is no semicolon. It treats the entire thing as a one column. It is treated as which column? Here it will treat as a name column only. Got it? So if there is a separator colon, once it finds a colon, that subsequent text will be treated as a value for the next column information. Fine. Okay. Any doubts here until here?
No.
Okay. Fine. So as there are many disadvantages, these are some of the disadvantages I mentioned. Okay, fine. Apart from that, it will like data cannot be rolled back. For example, the various disadvantages. No mapping. No mapping means, okay, actually all the data will not be stored in a single sheet or single table. Okay, fine. So they should be mapping between the two sheets. Okay, if I want to update the data here, it should also affect the data that is stored, the related data that is stored in the different sheet also. That is called no mapping. Okay, fine. So our program has to check the first this data, this table or this sheet, and update this, and also it has to check the other sheet called sheet 3. Okay, and look at his mobile look at his name and update his mobile number. Okay, so there's no mapping if you maintain the data in text files or Excel sheets. Okay, fine. So to overcome the disadvantages of this, okay, DBMS has evolved. DBMS software. Okay, fine. So DBMS software, what is it as? Okay, database. It stands for database management system. So this is a software that helps. Okay, it's a complex software. Okay, it overcomes all the limitations of file processing system. It overcomes all of the limitations of file processing systems. So that means if we store our database, if we store our data in the database, it checks all. Okay, so okay, it checks, like it validates our data before entry is made. Okay, this particular piece of software helps us in validating of data. It prevents like invalid entry. For example, if you store the mobile number 123, it will not accept. It says that, okay, please enter correct mobile number. Okay, right? So this piece of software helps us in validating our data before entering the record, so that it follows, like it will be very useful. Okay, if we store our data with the help of a DBMS software, okay, fine. So it will be accurate. It will be almost 99% complete, and it will be up to date, and it can be like well organized. Okay, fine. Fine. So. So this actually helps us which helps in building or creating a useful database. Useful is to be underlined, right? So this is this software. This is a complex software which helps us in creating a useful database, which will be like accurate, complete, and up-to-date information. We can maintain up-to-date information and maintaining of databases. Okay, fine. So DBMS, there are different types of DBMS. There are different types of DBMS called types of DBMS. So first is, okay, this is legacy. Earlier HDBMS. BMS. Second is NDBMS. Third is RDBMS. So this is our scope of interest. This is our scope. Okay. So all these types of DBMS, okay. HDBMS means hierarchical DBMS. Hierarchical DBMS. It stands for hierarchical DBMS. N means network DBMS. Network Database Management System. Okay, Fine. So only the difference. These all types of DBMS differ in how the data is stored, how the information is stored. All this differ. There's no difference between HDMS, NDBMS, and RDBMS, but they differ only in how the information is stored or how the data is stored. Okay, so in HDMS, all the information is stored in a hierarchical format. That is like with the parent and child relationship. Okay, fine. So most of the databases, okay, of legacy databases which are very old, okay, they used to store the data in hierarchical format. That is using parent and child relationship. This is also like define like how the information stored in means it's in network based, but in type of nodes. Okay, that is not a scope, our scope of interest. Okay, but as SQL Server is an RDBMS software, this is our scope. Okay, so in RDBMS software, all the information or data is stored in relations. Okay, fine. So that is nothing but it's a table. That is nothing but a table. Okay, fine. So all the data is stored in form of relation. Relation is nothing but the table is a two-dimensional format. Two-dimensional format. So in relational databases, all the information is stored in a two-dimensional format called relations or a table. Okay, as per database terminology, it is called relationship. While coming to the implementation part of SQL Server of any RDBMS software, it is called a table. It is nothing but all the information stored in two dimension. Two dimension is x-axis and y-axis, right? Okay, fine. So x-axis means rows, that is rows and columns. Okay, fine. So we'll understand what is a table now. Okay, fine. So by this, like, okay, we understood like what is DBMS, what is RDBMS, right? If you have any questions, you can ask me. Until now, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So what is rows and columns? Okay, so in RDBMS software, all the data, okay, same as Excel only. Same as Excel only. It contains rows. These are called rows. Okay, these are called columns. Okay, this is nothing but a relation. In DBMS software, the information is stored like two-dimensional.